All right, this is Layer Masking 101. In this video, we are going to apply layer masks to adjustment layers and using a very common technique that is selective color. So by applying an adjustment layer, a black and white adjustment layer, and then masking back some of the original image, you're going to understand the simplicity and fun technique involved around layer masking. So let's go ahead and get started. I have my standard image. It's brought into Photoshop. This is Photoshop 2021. And I have the background layer visible. So my first step is to add an adjustment layer, a black and white adjustment layer. There are two ways to access adjustment layers. One, in your palettes on the right-hand side of the screen. If you see the word adjustments, you can click on that. And these are all the potential adjustment layers. But if you don't understand what the icons are, I find it more challenging, even though you can hover over an icon and then it tells you what it is. I still prefer to use the method at the bottom of the layers palette, the half black, half white circle. And by clicking on that, it extends a menu which lists all of my adjustment layers. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the black and white adjustment layer. Notice it adds a new layer and it makes my image black and white. This particular adjustment layer allows you to change the tones of each hue and to give a different feel for the image. Once you're done with your sliders and you're pleased with your black and white conversion, you can collapse this menu by hitting the two double arrows at the top of this pull-out panel. So again, I have a new layer. This is an adjustment layer. It has, here's the adjustment. So if I ever want to go back in and edit it again, it's as simple as a double click on that little half black, half white square. And in addition, this layer has added a white box. This white box is my mask. So the white is hiding what's underneath. So if I were to use black and paint on this mask, it will reveal what is in the layer underneath it. So that's exactly what we're going to do. So I have the layer mask selected. So again, it's got a white box around it, so I know it's selected. I'm going to come over here to my colors in my toolbox, and I do want to make sure black is in the foreground. So I'm going to use the toggle key right here to put black in the foreground. I can also use the X key on my keyboard to toggle back and forth between foreground and background colors. Once I have the black selected, I want to come on up to my brush tool. Make sure you're not using the history brush tool. Use the regular brush tool. And I'm going to use a simple circular brush. That's a fairly hard because this flamingo has hard edges. So I want to make sure that I get the flamingo itself will be in color, everything else will be in black and white. So, and then to collapse your brush bar, if you just kind of click elsewhere on the screen up towards the top, then that menu collapses as well. So now I'm ready to start painting back in and masking. So I'm just clicking and dragging. And as I paint on the flamingo, it is revealing the colors from the layer underneath. So to do a really good job of this, of course, you want to zoom in using your controller command plus to really get the detail. And where you can see that I've messed up, for instance, right here and over here, it's as simple as toggling back to using white. My mask is a white mask. I'm painting and revealing the colors from underneath by painting in black. So if I just toggle back to white, or again, hit the X key on the keyboard, then I can just come back in and it's like I'm erasing. So the advantage of adjustment layers is this becomes a non-destructive editing. So I've not messed with my original pixels. This is an add-on layer that allows me to make some changes to it based on what is visible and what is not. And as you paint on with your mask, it's important to remember that you can change your brush size to make it more appropriate to what you're painting on. So right now my brush is set, it looks like it's 80 pixels. So I can either use my drop down to change the brush size, or I can also use my left or right bracket. So the left bracket, I'm pressing it right now, makes my brush smaller. Right bracket makes it larger. So I'm going to come over here, I'm going to toggle over to the white with the X key, and I'm going to clean this area up. I feel it's always very important to make sure that you are zooming in on the details to get a fine-tuned selection. So I think I pretty much have the flamingo now. And there's one last thing I'd like to go ahead and show. Sometimes you don't want the full color from the background, which we have here with the basic mask, but maybe you want a little less of the color so it's more desaturated in the background. So that can be done very easily by just changing the opacity of the brush. So right now I have 100% opacity on the flamingo up here, so it's all visible, the same as what was in the original background layer. And I can test that theory just by toggling on and off and seeing what was in the background, or what was on the original background layer. So if I want a little desaturated flamingo in the background, now with my brush, all I do is change the opacity. So right now it's at 100%. If I click on the word opacity, click and drag to the left, it changes my opacity. We'll just go to about 50%. I can also drop down and drag a slider that way too. So change the opacity to 50%. I'm going to make my brush bigger with the right bracket key. And I do have black selected as my foreground color. So now I'm ready to paint. And you can see this flamingo in the background is desaturated, so it's not 100% saturation, it is at 50% saturation. And you can see how that would look. And I can clean up some of the edges here too. So this is the basics when it comes to layer masking and using adjustment layers. The same technique can be applied to any of the different adjustments layers. So just to show you what a few of the other adjustment layers do, I'm going to toggle this off real quick and then come back down to my adjustment layers. And I have multiple different options here. Some really fun creative ones, for instance, posterize, kind of pushes, makes it a little bit more pixelated like a traditional poster. I can collapse that. And like all the other adjustment layers, it too has a mask. So if I wanted to paint back to make visible from the original background layer, I would just come back in and paint like I have done before. And then using the X key to clean up some of the area. So all the adjustment layers have built-in masks. It is a fantastic starting point when you're learning layer masking. And the concept is all about the white. The white conceals what is underneath the background on the layer underneath, whereas the black reveals what is underneath. And then you have access to even painting a little bit in gray, so you change the opacity of what you're trying to reveal. So that's the simple aspects of layer masking, and then I'll be creating another video soon that takes you one step further.